WMAL.com. I'm Bill Thompson on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Now, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630 WMAL.
I love that. That's also a staple of my childhood. It's 8:07 on the Morning Majority.
Can I just do that? It's Saturday night! I've always wanted to be that announcer.
Well done. We have Darrell Hammond with us this morning. You know him as a stand-up comedian and a great impressionist, often doing Bill Clinton and Al Gore during his days on SNL. Actually, the longest-running cast member in SNL
How about
history.
that? I didn't know that. That's
Very
awesome.
cool. It's really good to have him here. Good morning, Darrell.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, now you've got a book out, which I do want to get into because it's a sort of very serious take and some sort of out of step from how we know you in public life. But I do want to ask you real quick. We've been talking about Rick Perry's gaffe at the debate last night, where he kind of had about 53 seconds of not knowing how to answer a question.
Yeah, I didn't actually see that. Did you?
Yes.
Yes, it's cringeworthy.
What actually happened for 53 seconds?
He had 3 points and he got 2 of them and he just couldn't remember the third and he just kept digging himself a hole. It was sort of, it's one of those things where you sort of felt bad for him, but it was like, ooh. Ugh.
So an entire room of Republicans let him just be quiet for 53 seconds?
No, they were trying to help him out.
They actually were trying to help. That's how bad it was. They were trying to help him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like to bust people's chops as much as any other comic, but now I don't know. Maybe is there a health issue? Is there?
I don't know.
Well, so my question was, I think he said on the morning talk shows this morning, "You're welcome, SNL." And so, as somebody with a lot of experience in this, are they just saying manna from heaven and writing up a skit right now?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had lunch with Steve Higgins, executive producer at Saturday Night Live yesterday, and he's certainly in their sights.
Will you be going back to, as the campaign moves along, to take on some of these characters occasionally?
I would if that's what Lauren wanted. I think he probably prefers to let his new cast establish themselves and give them meaty parts to play. So if there's something that I did before that was pertinent to what was happening with these new candidates, then he might bring me.
And as you look at the candidates now, is there any one candidate that you find especially delicious as an impersonator?
Well, I did find Perry that way, but now I'm a little concerned.
Well, how would Perry sound in your impression?
He'd sound a little bit like Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you buy that?
Yeah, I would buy that.
I mean, like...
It's like a 2-for-1 sale.
I mean, he just... And also, those crazy gaps of silence when he's being interviewed. He's great on the stump, but, sometimes he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, someone's just putting something in my hand.
So we're talking to Darrell Hammond from Saturday Night Live fame. You got a new book out that says, God, if you're not up there, I'm effed. Tale of stand-up, Saturday Night Live, and other mind-altering mayhem. So we've read some excerpts from it, and we've heard it, some tales from it. There's no other way to say this. You had a messed up childhood.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a pretty rough patch of road. That's right.
So your mom would beat you. She would torture you. Electrical outlets used hammers.
Yes.
How? Why?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist. I mean, it makes sense to me that that's a generational problem, and that was probably done to her, and she did it to me. And, the big breakthrough in my whole life, there were two. One was, I was behaving like a crazy person because of something that happened, not because of some airborne illness. And B, my mother had once been an innocent child, and so I really wanted to put that in the book, too. I mean, it's not a wholesale condemnation. It also seeks to understand. Well,
and it seems to me a lot of people, there's a lot of darkness behind comedy often. Why was comedy an outlet for you? How did you turn to that?
Well, initially, I started doing voices with my mom because she was great at it. She enjoyed it, and, it would take that faraway look out of her eyes. But then, when I got older, people were laughing at things I said, and of course you get addicted to that. You get invited to all the great parties, and then I discovered Richard Pryor and fantasized about doing stand-up for about 10 years, and then finally, at the encouragement of some Irish 20-somethings in Hell's Kitchen, I got up on stage and tried it, and it went pretty well.
Where was your father during all this?
I think he was drinking, and he was also he traveled a lot. But I mean, you know, these kinds of things don't happen in front of other people.
Right.
I mean, someone would stop them. I mean, the point I think of the book is that there are contracts between perpetrator and victim. Actual contracts where the victim says, you know what, I won't say anything.
Right.
And the perpetrator implies, yeah, because I'll kill you if you do. I've hurt you badly already, but I can really take this to the next level, you know?
One of the more famous skits I remember from you was the Al Gore lockbox debate. Yeah. And you write that almost didn't happen. Can you explain exactly what was going on before that skit, before you went live with that?
Well, you know, I was in therapy at that time for what they called fugue states or flashbacks or whatever, where basically you remember something and feel exactly like you did in the moment that it occurred, but you're also in reality, and the SNL band is, on the other side of the wall, thumping with Emmy-winning, musicians, and I was really having a flashback, and I was trying to find a way out of it. So I think when people cut the way I did, it's usually as a sign of protest, but also to create a newer, smaller, more manageable crisis than the one that has you, quote unquote, grabbing the carpet.
So I've always wondered that. So people who cut themselves, you're saying you do it because that way you focus on the cutting, on that crisis versus the bigger picture?
Yeah, I mean, just a little sliver in your arm. I mean, it's just practically missed. It's not a big injury, but it's something to think about and something that needs to be attended to, and it can stop you from the flashbacks. I mean, the flashbacks are weird. I mean, it's like you feel like you're there again, And I mean, I've since read, I read a book called Unbroken by Laura Hildebrand. It gave me a lot of insight into that stuff.
I wanted to ask you about, you played a really interesting role on Damages as not the funny guy, a very, very creepy guy. Yeah. And I wonder, was any of this from your childhood? Did it fuel that? Because you do a really good job. A lot of times when comedians do that, you don't buy it. But
yes, I've been acquainted with menacing people in my life. When we first talked about it with the producers of Damages, I don't know, it's funny, I don't know why they thought I could do something like that. But I presented someone that I waited on in a bar in Hell's Kitchen often, who later turned out to be a hitman. So I presented that idea to them, but as it moved along, it was more like the menace of, I'm going to be very sweet to you, I'm going to speak to you in sweet, dulcet tones while this knife goes in.
Yeah.
Well, Darrell Hammond, we appreciate you joining us here on the Morning Majority. Thanks for dropping by.
You are so nice for having me. Thanks, you guys.
It's our